A new study finds remote work accounts for about a third of the increase in isolation and mental distress since the pandemic, and the effects are worse for people who are living alone. A survey of men finds 57% say financial struggles make them feel like they're failing at manhood, and 72% say society expects them to carry that stress alone. And 95% of Gen Z workers have stopped sharing their real opinions online to protect their careers. This is News SideQuest, the show for people who want to know what else happened today besides whatever everyone else is furious about. I'm Keith Conrad. Welcome to a new week. A landmark study published this week in the journal Science, authored by researchers at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and the University of Virginia and Harvard, is the most comprehensive look yet at what remote work has actually done to American mental health. 5 nationally representative surveys of American workers conducted from 2011 to 2024, and totaling nearly 590,000 participants deliberately omitting the peak pandemic years of 2020 and 2021 to isolate the longer-term pattern. The researchers compared changes in mental health and social behavior between workers in remote-capable jobs versus those in jobs that require physical presence. The rise of remote work explains about a third of the increase in isolation and mental distress between the pre-pandemic period and the 2022 to 2024 period. Workers in remote-eligible jobs spent more time working alone and pulled back from social activities with friends, remaining more isolated both during and after work. The detail that I find most compelling is how the researchers ruled out alternative explanations. Mental distress didn't only show up in survey responses. Workers in remote-eligible jobs became more likely to seek out mental health professionals and filled more prescriptions for depression and anxiety medications. To check whether the schedule flexibility was simply making it easier to see doctors, the researchers looked at whether those same workers also got more routine checkups or filled more prescriptions for unrelated conditions like cholesterol medication. And they didn't. The spike was specific to mental health. So this survey isn't saying remote work is bad. It's saying remote work, particularly for people who live alone and for whom the office was their primary source of daily human contact, carries a mental health cost that the flexibility and commute time savings don't actually offset. For someone with a robust social life outside of work, remote work may genuinely be positive. For someone whose social infrastructure was mostly built around their workplace, it can be quietly devastating. In an office, you can always crowd around the water cooler, but a remote worker is basically left alone with their own thoughts. One analyst put it more specifically: companies successfully digitize tasks, but fail to digitize relationships. We engineered the water cooler moments out of existence, and a workforce that is technically connected via Teams and Slack is psychologically disconnected in ways that don't show up on productivity reports. What's the best thing you found for getting out in the world when you work remotely? Not advice, your actual solution, the specific thing that works for you to have genuine human contact outside of computer screens.
Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
Good one.
Oh, that's terrific, Peter.
June is Men's Mental Health Month, which is a real designation that doesn't get a lot of attention. And a survey released last week gives it some numbers worth taking some time on. The survey, conducted by Talker Research on behalf of Beyond Finance, a debt consolidation company, which means their motivation is transparent, they polled 2,000 adult men evenly split across Gen Z, Millennial, Gen X, and Baby Boomer generations. 77% of men were taught growing up that a man's primary role is to financially provide for the family. 82% said society still expects men to be the primary earners. And 70% said fulfilling that role is harder today than it was for their father's generation, citing costs rising faster than wages, lack of affordable housing, economic uncertainty, and the increasing job instability as the primary reasons. Basically everything we've been talking about the last couple of months. 57% of men say financial struggles have made them feel like they're falling short of what it means to be a man. 42% describe their finances as dire. 42%, that's a lot. 17% say they can't make ends meet. 25% are just barely getting by. 35% say financial worries negatively impact their mental health every day. Among Gen Z men, that daily mental health impact from money concerns raises to nearly 50%. Now, here's the part that the survey's financial therapist put most directly, and I want to quote this one carefully because of how it lands. Quote, "What stands out to me in this data is the silence. Men are carrying enormous financial and emotional weight, and most of them are carrying it completely alone because asking for help feels like proof that they're failing. That silence isn't stoicism, it's suffering. And it's where a lot of the real damage to men's mental health, relationships, and sense of self actually happens," end quote. 72% of men agreed that society expects them to handle money stress quietly and without reaching out for help. More than half said they've hidden financial struggles from people close to them because of shame. Men in the 1930s during the Great Depression probably felt something similar. The provider identity and the shame of not meeting it aren't new. What's changed is the context. More expectation of partnership at home, more visible conversations about mental health, and an economy that has been simultaneously widening the gap between what men are promised and what's actually available. How has your definition of what it means to be responsible changed from what you were taught growing up? What did you expect it to look like, and what does it actually look like now?
Men, we don't know what we did.
A new survey of more than 900 Gen Z employees reveals something that sounds like a paradox given everything we know about this generation. The most digitally native generation in history has largely stopped saying what they actually think online. 95% of Gen Z workers say they've avoided posting their real opinions online because they believe it could hurt their career. 90% say they've already faced negative workplace consequences, warning, reprimands, or conflicts because of something they posted. 67% have felt pressure from managers to connect with them on social media, and 34% have created completely separate personal and professional accounts to manage the two sides of their online presence. The article traces part of this shift to a specific event last September, noting that an estimated 600 workers were fired from their jobs after posting celebratory or mocking comments in the wake of a high-profile killing. That episode appears to have accelerated an awareness among young workers that their personal social media is now effectively a permanent public employment record. A career expert quoted in the study put it plainly, quote, "The expectation of workplace professionalism no longer ends when an employee clocks out, because peers and employers are actively monitoring social media feeds. Young professionals are treating their digital footprints like living resumes." I want to connect this back to something we talked about back in April, the study finding that Americans are more cynical than they let on to their friends. What's emerging here is a pattern of public self-presentation that increasingly diverges from what people actually think. The gap between private views and public expression is widening. Whether that's prudence or self-censorship probably depends on what's being held back. When have you found yourself tempering your thoughts? Have you ever swallowed something because you genuinely believed the cost of saying it out loud felt too high? And if so, did that feel like wisdom or something else?
Rest assured that I was on the internet within minutes, registering my disgust throughout the world.
Episode 8 of the Titanic series just dropped on side quests and the sinking itself, what happened in the water, on the decks, in the lifeboats during those 2 hours and 40 minutes. If you've been following this series, this is the episode. If you haven't started yet, honestly, start from the beginning this week. The full arc is worth it. There's a free condensed version for everybody and an extended cut for paid subscribers. Find Side Quests wherever you get your podcasts or at newsidequest.com.
Would you like to know more?
The Illinois State Treasurer visited the Vatican and returned $8.65 to Pope Leo, presenting him with a certificate confirming the return of unclaimed property from a previously closed PayPal account. The Pope's reaction was not reported. You definitely want to do whatever you can to be on the Pope's good side. $8.65 is a modest but sincere gesture in that direction.
Good God. Yes, that's just what the Hebrews thought.
A goat was apparently sacrificed in a trendy London office building as part of what building management described as a black magic ritual. Authorities are investigating. If we've learned anything from the Cubs' 108-year World Series drought, it's that you should just leave goats alone. The lesson has not been universally learned. Scientists have discovered a new spider species that disguised itself as a fungus, using its body shape and coloring to mimic fungal growths on tree bark. Once spiders have learned to wear disguises, it's only a matter of time before you get mugged by 30,000 of them in a trench coat.
There's no spider here, but I will hunt down the alleged arachnid and spread them to kingdom come.
Paleontologists have described a newly identified cousin of the velociraptor that apparently glided on 4 wings, using 2 pairs of feathered limbs to move through the air. What I will say is that a 4-winged gliding velociraptor relative is not a concept that needed to be introduced to my Monday.
They fly now! They fly now! They fly now!
That's it for new side quests. 3 questions to open your week. The best thing you've ever found for staying connected as a remote worker. How your definition of responsible adulthood has changed from what you were taught, and whether you've held something back online and whether that felt like wisdom or something else. Email me at newsidequest@gmail.com or hit me up in the Substack comments. See you tomorrow.